Story 2, in which Piglet meets a heffalump.
One day, when Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh and Piglet were all talking together, Christopher Robin finished the mouthful he was eating and said carelessly,
"I saw a heffalump today, Piglet."
"What was it doing?"
"Just lumping along. I don't think it saw me."
"I saw one once. At least I think I did. Only perhaps it wasn't."
So did I.
You don't often see them?
Not now.
Not at this time of year.
When it was time for Pooh and Piglet to go home together, they took the route which edged the 100-acre wood, and as they stumped along it, they didn't say much to each other. But when they came to the stream, and had helped each other across the stepping stones and were able to walk side by side again over the heather, they began to talk in a friendly way about this and that, and Piglet said,
"If you see what I mean, Pooh."
It's just what I think myself, Piglet.
"But on the other hand, Pooh, we must remember..."
Quite true, Piglet, although I'd forgotten myself for a moment. Piglet, I have decided something.
"What have you decided, Pooh?"
I have decided to catch a heffalump.
Pooh nodded his head several times and waited for Piglet to say,
"How?"
or
"Pooh, you couldn't."
or something helpful of that sort. But Piglet said nothing, because Piglet was wishing he had thought of it first.
I shall do it by means of a trap, and it must be a cunning trap, so you will have to help me, Piglet.
"Pooh, I will." "How shall we do it?"
Well, that's just it. How?
Hmm.
Let's sit down. It'll help us to think. Maybe...
Yes.
Maybe not.
Oh, but... No.
Maybe we should dig a very deep pit, and then the heffalump will come along and fall into the pit, and
Why?
Why what?
Why would it fall in?
The heffalump might be walking along, humming a little song and looking up at the sky, wondering if it would rain, and so he wouldn't see the very deep pit until he was halfway down, when it would be too late.
This would be a very good trap, Pooh, but supposing it were raining already?
I hadn't thought of that. Yes, but Piglet, if it were raining already, then the heffalump would be looking at the sky wondering if it would clear up, and so he wouldn't see the very deep pit until he was halfway down, when it would be too late.
Now that you have explained that point, Pooh, I think it a cunning trap.
Indeed, I believe the heffalump is as good as caught already. But there's just one other thing which has to be thought about, Piglet, and that is, where should we dig the very deep pit?
I think the best place would be somewhere where a heffalump was, just before he fell into it, only about a foot further on.
But then he would see us digging it.
Not if he was looking at the sky.
But he would suspect if he happened to look down. It isn't as easy as I thought. I suppose that's why heffalumps hardly ever get caught.
That must be it.
They sighed and stood up, and when they had taken a few gorse prickles out of themselves, they sat down again. And all the time Pooh was saying to himself,
"If only I could think of something."
For he felt sure that a very clever brain could catch a heffalump if only he knew the right way to go about it.
Piglet, suppose you wanted to catch me. How would you do it?
Well, I should do it like this. I should make a trap, and I should put a jar of honey in the trap, and you would smell it, and you would go in after it. And
I would go in after it, only very carefully, so as not to hurt myself, and I would get to the jar of honey, and I should lick round the edges, first of all, pretending that there wasn't any more, you know, and then I should walk away and think about it a little, and then I should come back and start licking in the middle of the jar. And then...
Yes, well, never mind about that. There you would be, and there I should catch you. Now, the first thing to think of, what do heffalumps like? I should think acorns, shouldn't you? We'll get a lot of... I say, wake up, Pooh.
Oh, honey is a much more trappy thing than acorns.
No, Pooh. Acorns.
They were just about to argue about it when Piglet remembered something.
If we put acorns in the trap, we will have to find the acorns. But if it's honey, then Pooh will have to give up some of his honey. And so...
All right.
All
acorns.
right, honey, then, Pooh. Honey, I'll dig the pit while you go and get the honey.
Very well.
As soon as Pooh got home, he went to the larder, and he stood on a chair and took down a very large jar of honey from the top shelf. It had honey written on it, but just to make sure, he took off the paper cover and looked at it, and it looked like honey.
But you never can tell. I remember my uncle saying once that he had seen cheese just this colour, so I will just... Yes, it is honey. No doubt about that. And honey, I should say, right down to the bottom of the jar. Unless, of course, someone put cheese in at the bottom, just for a joke. Perhaps I'd better go a little further, just in case heffalumps don't like cheese, same as me. Aha! I was right. It is honey, right the way down.
So Pooh took the jar back to Piglet, and Piglet looked up from the bottom of his very deep pit and said,
Got it?
Yes, but it isn't quite a full jar.
Throw it down to me, Pooh. No, it isn't. Is that all you've got left?
Yes.
So Piglet put the jar at the bottom of the pit and climbed out, and they went off home together.
Here we are at your house, Pooh. So, good night. And we'll meet at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning by the pine trees and see how many heffalumps we've got in our trap.
6 o'clock, Piglet. And have you got any string?
No. Why do you want string?
To lead them home with, of course.
Oh, I think heffalumps come if you whistle.
Some do, and some don't. You never can tell with heffalumps. Well, good night.
Good night.
And off Piglet trotted to his house, Trespassers W, while Pooh made his preparations for bed.
Some hours later, just as the night was beginning to steal away, Pooh woke up suddenly with a sinking feeling. He had had that sinking feeling before, and he knew what it meant. He was hungry. So he went to the larder, and he stood on a chair and reached up to the top shelf and found nothing.
That's funny. I know I had a jar of honey there, a full jar, full of honey, right up to the top, and it had honey written on it so that I should know it was honey. That's very funny. It's very, very funny, because I know I had some honey, because it had a label on saying honey. A galoshes full up pot too, and I don't know where it's got to. No, I don't know where it's gone. Well, it's funny. Of course! I put it into the cunning trap to catch heffalumps. Bother! It all comes of trying to be kind to heffalumps.
So he climbed back into bed, but he couldn't sleep. The more he tried to sleep, the more he couldn't. He tried counting sheep, which is sometimes a good way of getting to sleep, and as that was no good, he tried counting heffalumps, and that was worse, because every heffalump that he counted was making straight for a pot of Pooh's honey and eating it all. For some minutes he lay there miserably, but when the 587th heffalump was licking its jaws and saying to itself,
Very good honey. This, I don't know when I've tasted better.
Pooh could bear it no longer. He jumped out of bed, he ran out of the house, and he ran straight to the 6 pine trees.
The sun was still in bed, but there was a lightness in the sky over the 100-acre wood, which seemed to show that it was waking up and would soon be kicking off the clothes. In the half-light, the pine trees looked cold and lonely, and the very deep pit seemed deeper than it was, and Pooh's jar of honey at the bottom was something mysterious, a shape, and no more. But as he got nearer to it, his nose told him that it was indeed honey, and his tongue came out and began to polish up his mouth ready for it.
Ah, here's the pot. What's this? A heffalump has been eating it. Oh, no, I did. I forgot. But there's still a little right at the...
By and by, Piglet woke up. As soon as he woke, he said to himself,
Oh,
Then he said bravely,
yes,
then more bravely still.
quite so.
But he didn't really feel very brave, for the word which was really jiggetting about in his brain was...
Heffalumps!
What is a heffalump like? Does it come when you whistle? And how does it come? Is it fond of pigs at all? And if it is fond of pigs, does it make any difference what sort of pig? Supposing it is fierce with pigs, will it make any difference if the pig had a grandfather called Trespassers William? Oh dear, I really don't know about heffalumps, and I'm going to see my first one in about an hour from now. Oh, but Pooh will be with me, and it's much more friendly with two. But then supposing heffalumps are fierce with pigs and bears? Maybe it would be better to pretend that I have a headache and I can't go to the 6 pine trees this morning. But then again, supposing it's a very fine day and there's no heffalump in the trap, here I'll be in bed all morning simply wasting my time for nothing. Oh, what should I do? I know. I'll go up very quietly to the 6 pine trees and peep very cautiously into the trap and see if there is a heffalump there. And if there is, I'll go back to bed. And if there isn't, I won't.
So off went Piglet. And at first he thought there wouldn't be a heffalump in the trap. And then he thought that there would. And as he got nearer, he was sure that there would, because he could hear it heffalumping about like anything.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
And he wanted to run away. But somehow, having got so near, he felt that he must just see what a heffalump was like. So he crept to the side of the trap and looked in.
And all the time, Winnie the Pooh had been trying to get the honey jar off his head. The more he shook it, the more tightly it stuck.
Ow! Bother! Ow! No! Help! Ow!
And he tried bumping it against things. But as he couldn't see what he was bumping it against, it didn't help him. So he tried to climb out of the trap. But as he could see nothing but jar, and not much of that, he couldn't find his way. So at last he lifted up his head, jar and all, and made a loud, roaring noise of sadness and despair. And it was at that moment that Piglet looked down.
Help! Help! A heffalump! A horrible heffalump! Help! 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 Horrible heffalump!
And he didn't stop crying and scampering until he got to Christopher Robin's house, where Christopher Robin was just getting up.
Help! Help! A heffalump! A horrible heffalump!
Whatever's the matter, Piglet?
Heff! A heffalump!
Where?
Up there.
What did it look like?
Like it had the biggest head you ever saw, Christopher Robin. A great enormous thing. Like nothing. A huge big, like an enormous big nothing. Like a jar.
Well, I shall go and look at it. Come on.
I can hear it, can't you?
I can hear something.
There, look.
Ow.
Isn't it awful?
It's...
Help!
It's...
Ow! Ow! That's better.
Then Piglet saw what a foolish piglet he had been, and he was so ashamed of himself that he ran straight off home and went to bed with a headache. But Christopher Robin and Pooh went home to breakfast together.
Oh, Bear, how I do love you.
So do I.